Joe here, your reliability man, bridging the gap between best practices and the reality that you live in every day. Telling stories from my time as a plant manager, a large department manager, maintenance manager, and as an engineer. Over that 32-year period, lessons learned that I can help you with. Today's topic is a problem-solving story. So we all love stories, and problem-solving, as you know, is a major enabler to reducing waste and increasing the reliability of your facility. So let's tell a story here. First, bottom right of your screen, you'll see a little icon for subscribe. Hit that. Become a frequent listener and to this channel. Also, by subscribing, what it does for you is it aligns all my videos for future reference, so you can quickly sort through them. All you'll see when you hit the subscription button and hit on my icon is you'll just see all my videos lined up. So it's a real easy, convenient way to have this library of actions. Okay, here's the story. I was working at a smelter in the U.S., observing current state. The maintenance manager didn't have time for me, but that's another video. But this was a hand-picked job that was provided to me, to the corporate guy, to see what's current state at this plant. And I was hand-picked, easy job, changing out a bearing on a bucket elevator. Bucket elevator is basically a conveyor. Take a horizontal conveyor with a belt on it, make it vertical, add some buckets to it to move the material from bottom to top, and you got a bucket elevator. Not too complicated. Should have been a straightforward job, but it was 9 stories up, and it was a 3-inch diameter shaft and bearing. However, the bearing was frozen onto the shaft, had all the collateral damage with final failure. 3 mechanics were assigned to the job, had a torch cutting it off, damaged the shaft, had to make a new shaft on emergency. You know the drill. Up and down stairs, just made it a nightmare, getting tools, moving parts up and down. 3 mechanics were assigned to this job over a 3-day period, 16 hours a day. That's 144 labor hours assigned to this job. The equipment was down to full 3 days, 72 hours. And this happens, by the way, once a quarter. That is important coming up. The question for you listeners is, should we work on wrench time? Should we build a crash cart? Should we pre-make about 3 or 4 of these shafts for when this happens? Maybe buy a cabinet, put things up on the 9th floor so we have all the parts and pieces ready to go and we can really get some good wrench time on this job. The answer is no, we should not do that. Problem solving is the right tool in this case. It's the golden egg here. So I was with the mechanic, one of them, and I, hit it off, and I asked him some questions as he was doing his work, and that while there was dead time doing the job, which there always is in emergency work. He said this didn't happen whenever we used to lubricate the bearings once a week. We stopped doing that because there was a safety incident on the other side of the plant, and a rule came out on lubricating moving equipment. And there was a hazard associated with doing this work with the equipment live, to lube it with live. So it's great safety intervention. They needed 30 minutes a week to lubricate this. So 30 minutes a week, so there's 13 weeks in a quarter. Do that math. That's 6.5 hours of downtime planned that we could have had. That's option 1. Versus, being down 72 hours once a quarter. Easy choice there. But I think we could do better than that. Also, when I was talking to the mechanic, he said that he had an idea to install some tubing so he could remote lubricate these 4 bearings and actually have no downtime. So that's interesting. So he can get it from 72 hours of downtime and 144 hours of labor down to 0 and 0. So a lot is highlighted by this, a lot of system things. So I'd ask you to consider a few things. How would you assess the asset owner's role in this, the maintenance leader's role, and the reliability engineering connection? Does the asset owner own the process? To me, it's a strong signal they do not. This was a process change was made. Deal with it, maintenance team. Deal with it. Easily, folks, if you came out with a new safety rule said you can't lubricate this while the equipment's running, come on, there's other planned downtime, there's shift start, shift end, lunchtime, there's other production activities that you could have easily nested lubrication of these bearings with, easily nested it if you needed to take the 30 minutes of downtime. Also, who's standing and looking at the system and says, hey, wait a second, we're failing this once a quarter. Why don't we come up with a better way? One way is this, a piping system you can install to lubricate them from a safe spot. You can install automatic lubrication devices on this. There's 100 solutions if you're focused on problem solving and your day doesn't consist of emergency work. So obviously the teams aren't working together. This just screams problem solving. There's our savings, and there's a little trap in here, a little tricky way to analyze this incorrectly. It's easy to come up with the savings in labor and materials, the downtime, but don't forget about the opportunity cost. When you're in a chaos state of 3 days unplanned and you're managing inventories, trying not to cause production downtime, everybody's in that here and now, fire drill. What's the opportunity cost of stability? What if we were stable those 3 days? Those 3 days, once a quarter for an entire year. What could you make in quality improvements, process improvements, safety improvements, throughput improvements from that stability? That's the big dollars when it comes to reliability, is the opportunity cost with stability. Most people, it's hard to put a number on it. That's why people don't. But also, another thing to think about is what's the engagement of the craftspeople? The craftspeople are just going through this fire drill. They know how to fix it. They like when equipment runs well. They like to be, to take care of things. They like to fix things. They like their ideas being implemented. Where do you think this mechanic that I was talking to is on the engagement scale? Pretty low. Number 4, you may think this is a pretty simple solution, but folks, 90% of the time I'm out in the field and my time as a plant manager, the solutions are pretty simple. 1 out of 10, there's some complex design issue that you need to get into, but most of the time you're gonna find out it's pretty basic. And you solve the basic ones, you'll have plenty of time to go after those complex issues. Also, number 5, quite often these opportunities are seen easier by an outside person. I'm not just trying to get business for myself, but maybe you can get somebody from a different side of the plant to observe in your area, and they'll see problems that you become complacent to, but best seen by outside people. Last question for you on the system. Is this plant ready for artificial intelligence, continuous condition monitoring of equipment, sensors everywhere? Maybe even a mobile CMMS system to make things more efficient. Basically the culture, that's a sarcastic question really. The culture is not even close to being ready for new tools and purchased items. You've got to get some basics in place around, asset owner, wrench time, problem solving, system of planning and scheduling, and improvement. You got to have those things in place first before those fancy tools that you see at seminars and trade magazines can be of any use. So, Joe's challenge for next week. On your 4-hour observation that I know every one of you listening has put on your calendar every week, you have 4 hours of observation blocked out every week. Look for evidence on the shop floor of problem solving. Don't talk to people. Don't listen to their stories, okay? Which they're biased. And I'm not saying they're liars, they're biased. But do you see evidence of problem solving of the work that you see? Do you see an improvement cycle that's evident from what you physically see out on the shop floor? Begin your journey, folks. This stuff isn't that hard. Get pointers from me, send me emails, send comments on LinkedIn or on YouTube here. Reach out if you want an experienced guide. I guarantee I can shave years off your deployment. I've done this before. Thank you very much. Hit like and subscribe.